Florida is taking a stand to fight domestic violence.
In just a couple of weeks, a new law will enhance penalties for those who violate a restraining order and give law enforcement new tools to combat domestic violence. Our Florida Bureau Chief Matt Hoffman joins us live now from the Capitol. Matt, what is this law all about?
Yeah, thanks to a unanimous vote here at the Capitol, starting July 1st, anyone who violates a domestic violence restraining order for the second time now faces a felony. House Bill 277 passed the legislature unanimously. That means every lawmaker in support.
What that says to me is that the Florida legislature realizes that we need to do more about domestic violence and protecting our victims and tracking offenders.
The law takes effect July 1st. It makes violating a DV restraining order for the second time a felony and creates a statewide database for law enforcement.
I'm a former homicide investigator, right? And it would always break my heart when I would pick up a homicide just to find out that there were lots and lots and lots of previous incidences of domestic violence that could have been avoided if there were stricter or stiffer penalties. So.
Before this law, both former law enforcement officers say it wasn't always easy to find restraining orders because they're civil cases handled at each county courthouse. But now even military protection orders will be reported.
No, I would say the majority of times you interact with somebody involved in domestic violence, there's a pattern. There's somebody that grew up in an unfortunate household that learned that this was a normal behavior and they have not broken the chain, and it continues on into their current relationships.
Now, the new law does not increase the penalty for the first time a suspect violates a restraining order.
So I think for a first-time offense, it's the laws are appropriate. It's for the second-time offenders or third or fourth or fifth-time offenders that who aren't responding to previous attempts at intervention that need to be looked at a little bit more punitively.
Now, the law bumps up the money victims can get to relocate, $2,500 for the first time, $5,000 throughout a lifetime. For now at the Capitol, I'm Matt Hoffman, WCTV Eyewitness News.
Okay, Matt, thank you.